Judge Bell, what is the extent of child abuse in the state?
The extent, I don't think we really know. We can make estimates and judgments, and I'm not good on statistics, but I don't think we really know. This is an area or a field that's usually occurs within the close confines of the family, and so often it never gets out of that. And we find out about child abuse through accident so many times. It is extensive, and the various forms of it are extensive. We've mentioned Mr. DeFrancis, who is one of the leading experts in the country. They did a very extensive study in New York and on a small district, but blew those statistics up to neighborhood, county, so forth, and state. And it was fantastic, the statistics they came up with sexual abuse within the family. We never dreamed that such a thing occurred as much as it does. I think it is fairly extensive, but I can't quote statistics offhand. I don't have them.
But you don't think you're seeing all the cases that occur?
No.
How about the idea of prevention of child abuse? Do you agree with the idea of having a central registry where any suspected case is reported, and then if the same parent brings in the same child to another doctor or another hospital, then that can be followed up to provide an overall overview?
It's accepted as the best procedure of determining or locating child abuse cases, and I think it's a very acceptable practice. I believe that's the only way you're going to discover it in a lot of cases. I would like to go further in prevention. Most of the parents who abused their children were abused themselves, and this is just something that they've been taught, and they're doing it to their children the same as the parents did it to them. If we could get some good family life education in our schools and break the chain on this as well as other problems we have in the family, I believe that we could cut down tremendously on child abuse in time to come. I do believe in prevention.
You think then that education is the answer in early childhood development?
Education is one of the answers. Of course, we're still going to have enforcement and corrections.
Obviously, that's the horns of a dilemma, as you mentioned earlier, in the enforcement of the law as well as the rehabilitation of the parent. Do you see any more smooth system than currently exists for making sure that you get both sides covered, the criminal aspects as well as the sociological impact?
You're always going to have risk and doubts in these type cases. I remember the story of the coroner's jury returned a verdict in England and said so-and-so died by an act of God under very suspicious circumstances. I think this is true in many of these cases. A doctor sees an x-ray with many fractures, old fractures and so forth, that this child has been abused. But we really don't know until we come into a court of law, and sometimes it can't be proven, and people are entitled to the benefit of the doubt. We're always going to have doubts and risk involved in these type of cases, and we're not going to be able to eliminate all of them, I don't think.
Speaking of that, why is it so hard to get a conviction in a child abuse case? As we mentioned earlier, there's only one person in prison now on the specific charge of child beating.
Usually a situation of this nature is on a very small child who cannot tell his story except through x-rays or something of that nature. Usually it happens within the bosom of the family, and many times just the parents are involved in some way. Parents do not have to, man and wife do not have to testify against themselves and cannot be made to do so, and you sometimes get in the problem where you just don't have the testimony. You have the suspicion, but you don't have the testimony in a court of law. It's very difficult at times to get the actual facts presented in court.
Do we still have a philosophy in this state of children as chattel, so to speak? Is that influencing juries?
No, I think we've come around to the idea that children do have rights. I don't know if it's completely accepted in some areas, but they do have rights, and parents do have responsibilities. But I think all too often, even in our courts in the state, we do look upon children as being chattels or property of the parents, and It takes a heck of a lot sometimes to convince a jury that the parent didn't have the right to whale the daylights out of this kid if he was acting up.
Let me ask you one further question. What is your reaction when you see a child brought into your court for dependent, neglected, or abused, and that child is an emotional wreck, is physically bruised and battered all over? What do you think as a judge?
Ugh. You try not to get personally involved or emotionally involved. You're supposed to be cold, analytical, and sit on the bench and wait